You are being targeted. That intense sexual desire that hits you like a wildfire at the worst possible moment is not a personal failure or a moral defect. It's a deliberate physical attack aimed straight at your life force. When that heat rises in your body and shame follows like a shadow, it's not just biology. It's a mechanism designed to pull your power down and feed something that doesn't want you free. This truth comes from teachings that were cut out of the official story, private instructions Jesus gave to the chosen, passed through hidden gospels, and whispered by Mary Magdalene after the resurrection, then erased from view. Those records were removed because they exposed how power is siphoned from people like you. Keeping that knowledge buried was the easiest way to keep whole generations confused, guilty, and harvestable. Here's the core. Certain people, pneumatics, those who carry a high, living, vital energy, feel sexual desire so intensely because that very energy is what threatens the harvesters. The Archons amplify your desire and then weaponize the shame that follows. But that same amplified force can be turned into fuel. Recognition, seeing the amplification for what it is, plus a simple conscious transmutation practice, flips the script. What felt like your weakness is actually the raw material of your freedom. This is urgent, because every moment you mistake amplification for failure, you hand over what makes you dangerous to them. Learn to spot the signatures of their attack now. The timing, the intensity, the intrusive images, the crushing shame, and you immediately begin to collapse their protocol. The first signs to watch for begin with timing. Notice when desire arrives right after a spiritual high, and the rest of the story becomes clear. You have asked why desire becomes an intense flame along the path. Know that fevered longing is not a moral failure but a diagnostic sign. It reveals a strong, vital breath moving through your vessel. Archons, operating as amplifiers, sense that flow and increase parasitic pressure to unsettle you. That intensification marks you as pneumatic, someone who carries enough inner spark to disturb those pressures. Recognizing this flips shame into evidence of capacity, and it begins a practical work of reclamation. Fear, restlessness, and the search for protection are predictable responses when parasitic pressure spikes. Your vessel reacts with agitation. Thoughts narrow, and impulses demand release. The secret is to read these symptoms the way a technician reads a gauge. They measure flow and receptivity. Being pneumatic means a monadic anchor resides inside you, a source of focused frequency. Archons attempt to hijack the flow because that anchor can pierce their domain. Recognizing the anchor shifts the battle into your hands and clarifies what to do next. Begin with a straightforward discipline. Attend to the vital breath and map where it moves in your vessel. Name the sensation without moral commentary and note its intensity. Then apply a simple technical maneuver. Gather the flow into the lower center, compress briefly, and channel upward toward the monadic anchor. While doing so, enact a frequency shield around the body. Imagine a coherent field that rejects interference without panic. These steps are mechanical and repeatable. They teach the breath to obey intention and reduce the Archon's leverage. Turn sexual energy into a deliberate vector rather than a scrambled leak. When desire peaks, direct it into constructive contact with the monadic anchor by combining focused attention and ritualized movement. Hold posture, regulate vital breath cycles, and engage in a sustained inner recitation that aligns frequency. Channeling means conducing the current into creative or devoted action. Study, repair, building, or service framed as consecrated labor. The point is not suppression, but allocation. Allocate the force consciously to deepen sovereignty and refine the vessel against parasitic pressure. Society and inner voices will try to convert this capacity into guilt, shame, or exile, amplifying interference so you disconnect. When that happens, re-establish simple protocols, check resonance twice daily, affirm monadic priorities, and tighten the frequency shield during moments of exposure. Protecting the vessel does not mean isolation. It means clear boundaries and intentional transmission of force. Teach others by example rather than by apology. Each act of disciplined redirection chips away at parasitic pressure and expands practical sovereignty. When you are confronted by sudden surges, follow a short 4-step routine that fits any doorway or workplace. First, inhale to gather vital breath into the lower vessel. Second, compress that charge into the monadic anchor. Third, activate the frequency shield with a steady outgoing breath. Fourth, assign the redirected charge to a task or invocation and release attachment. Repeating this routine trains reflexes so the body no longer yields to amplification. Over time, your vessel retains more charge, and archonic leverage diminishes. Accepting this teaching changes how desire is lived. It becomes an ally, a raw resource that proves your capacity rather than a secret to hide. Step into ownership without grand gestures. Small daily enactments of the protocols anchor new habits. Protect your monadic anchor fiercely, cultivate the frequency shield consistently, and regard the vital breath as both test and tool. Others may not understand, but that is secondary. Your sovereignty grows with each intentional redirection until parasitic pressure no longer dictates your path. You carry an innate energy that is not taught, but given, a vital breath that underlies every impulse and desire. You have felt it in moments of fear, in your search for protection, and in the sudden clarity that cuts through interference. That energy is a monadic anchor, the core of your sovereignty, and recognizing it shifts how you meet desire. This is not an academic point. It is a practical key to how you stand in presence and manage parasitic pressure without losing creative force. When you look at a hillock pattern, you see desire focused on immediate safety and accumulation, a lower frequency that clings to the vessel for survival. Your experience of a pneumatico is different. Desire rises like a signal that aims beyond comfort, overwhelming yet directed toward higher union. That overwhelming drive is not failure, but an indication of greater capacity to host higher light. Learn to read whether desire binds the vessel or charges it, because that reading tells you how to apply a frequency shield. You can transform that intense desire by treating it as raw creative energy rather than a moral failing. Start by acknowledging your vital breath as the source and naming the charge without shame. Anchor that charge in your monadic anchor, letting the sovereignty clarify intention. Direct it through the vessel with deliberate focus, like setting a conduit for current. Use a frequency shield to limit interference, so parasitic pressure cannot hijack the impulse. Over time, you feel desire become propulsion toward higher clarity and purpose. When fear tightens and you seek protection, notice whether your response fights from lack or from anchored power. Your vital breath responds differently when sovereignty is present. It steadies the vessel instead of fracturing it. Interference will try to mimic urgency, creating parasitic pressure that looks like real need. Naming those qualities gives you immediate leverage. Shift posture, reset intention, and the impulse relaxes into a useful current. That shift dissolves frantic tactics and replaces them with clear capacity to meet reality without needless recoil. Reframe desire as evidence of capacity rather than proof of spiritual failure. When desire surfaces, speak to it as a collaborator. Honor the vital breath it carries, and ask where the energy wants to move. Use simple acts, breath alignment with the monadic anchor, clear setting of intention, and a brief check of your frequency shield to test its direction. When you consistently validate desire in this way, parasitic pressure loses purchase. You gain confidence that longing can be trained into sustained creativity and reliable guidance. A pneumatico is not simply someone with more desire, it is someone whose vital breath can expand without surrendering the vessel. That capacity opens pathways to elevated states, because the monadic anchor can hold larger fields of attention. Cultivation is practical. Strengthen your sovereignty with repeated returns to the anchor. Refine where your energy is directed, and tighten the frequency shield during high-charge moments. When interference is reduced, your capacity multiplies, and the overwhelming impulse becomes a tool for reaching deeper clarity rather than a crisis. The practical secret is simple and urgent. Stop shaming intensity and start training its pathway. In any charged moment, pause, name the vital breath, reconnect to the monadic anchor, and set a clear intention from your sovereignty. Raise the frequency shield to reduce interference, and feel whether the vessel is being charged or drained. If charged, direct the flow toward creation. If drained, close the pathway and restore the anchor. Do this consistently, and desire will cease to be a threat and become a vehicle for higher knowing. You have been taught to fear the rush of desire, to think that when longing tightens in the chest it marks weakness or loss of control. Instead, understand that each surge is a raw current of energy attempting to become conscious. When that current meets your questioning mind rather than impulsive action, it reroutes. It is not failure to feel. It is the first movement of transmutation, a turning of base impulse into a carrier for higher awareness. This is the hidden work of inner alchemy. When you pause and inquire into a strong pull, that questioning becomes a mechanism of transmutation. Breathe your vital breath into the place of stirring so the energy fills your vessel rather than expressing blindly. Name the sensation and treat the pulse of desire as data, not a command. By holding attention long enough, the pressure meets inner architecture and is guided up toward the monadic anchor. Every deliberate inquiry severs a thread of parasitic pressure and strengthens your frequency shield, granting greater sovereignty over impulse. That internal conflict you call anxiety or fear is evidence that core work is underway. Rather than a crack in your vessel, it signals that old protocols imposed by the Archons are being unraveled. Each time desire is held and inspected, the prescribed reaction is refused. This refusal breaks their protocol. Without compliance, parasitic pressure loses leverage, and the interference that once fed on automatic behavior diminishes. The resulting tension becomes a lever, converting anguish into an engine for ascent instead of a retreat into old patterns. Begin with small, repeatable practices that rewire response toward sovereignty. When desire surges, perform a micro-pause. Let vital breath fill the point of sensation for 3 cycles. Hold the attention steady, then imagine the impulse moving up through inner channels toward the monadic anchor. Each repetition trains the vessel to convert charge into clarity. Complement this with a clear frequency shield, a practiced boundary in thought that limits interference and parasitic pressure from reasserting itself. Over time, these simple acts become the new autopilot. The secret at work is that conflict is an interior signal of elevation, not defeat. When desire is questioned and elevated, patterns that once hooked attention no longer rule choices. In relationships, ambition, or fleeting cravings, the method is identical. Name the pull, breathe the vital breath into the vessel, guide the charge upward, and reinforce the frequency shield. That sequence undoes habitual control and realigns priorities with the monadic anchor. Over weeks, choices begin to reflect an emerging sovereignty rather than reactive survival. Do not let shame or guilt be used as a counterforce. Those emotions are often seeded by archonic strategies to pull attention back into old loops. Recognize them as signals of interference, not evidence of failure. Reassert the practice. Check the vessel's tone, recenter the vital breath, tighten the frequency shield, and reconnect with the monadic anchor. Each time this sequence is chosen, parasitic pressure fades a little more, and sovereignty grows. The more it is enacted, the harder it becomes for external protocols to reinstall themselves. This is not a distant theory, but an operative technique that can be used now. When distress flares, act with the protocols described. Pause, bring vital breath into the point, name the pull, direct the energy upward toward the monadic anchor, and reinforce the frequency shield. Keep records internally of each victory. Each moment of resisted reactivity weakens archonic influence and strengthens your vessel. Persist in these steps steadily. The private battle of desire then becomes the proving ground where true sovereignty is regained and anguish converts into power. Listen, you have felt that surge after a true uplift, a clarity that opens the monadic anchor and brightens your vital breath. Archons do not invent that yearning, they wait for it. The secret is timing. Immediately after elevation, their manipulative field intensifies, amplifying desire into a precise pattern meant to provoke shame or guilt. That reaction is the hook. In those first moments, your vessel is most porous, and parasitic pressure leans in to harvest what flows out. You must notice this and resist early. When the amplification begins, it nudges interpretation inside your vessel, turning gratitude or awe into self-judgment through subtle interference. Small comparisons are seeded, then the current of vital breath is rerouted into loops of reproach that feel personal. Parasitic pressure feeds on those loops, converting warmth into fuel for its field. This is an engineered trade. Your uplift becomes commodity. Recognizing that the twist is external, not a flaw in your monadic anchor, is the first practical step toward reclaiming sovereignty. When you detect that sharpened afterglow, slow the rush of vital breath inside the vessel. Do not let reactive thoughts accelerate the outflow. Anchor attention to the monadic anchor, a steady point that refuses impulsive surrender. Visualize a frequency shield tightening around impulses, not to cut off feeling, but to reroute energy away from parasitic pressure. Name the interference aloud or in thought. Calling it by its tactic dissolves its immediacy. These are practical moves. They create pause, interrupt the harvest loop, and restore a measure of sovereignty. Over time, strengthen the vessel so those openings after spiritual lift are smaller and less tempting to parasitic pressure. Feed the monadic anchor with consistent signals, rites that mark intention, breath rituals that reorient vital breath, and practices that calibrate your frequency shield proactively. Documenting when interference appears sharpens pattern recognition. Noting exact triggers and timing trains your perception. Each preparation reduces harvest yield. The goal is not cold withdrawal, but practical sovereignty, making the field around you inhospitable to manipulative amplification without dimming genuine elevation. Shame and guilt are preferred levers because they trigger immediate contraction and blind you to source. When those voices rise, treat them as external interference rather than evidence of inner failing. Reframe the sensation. It is a signal of attempted harvest, not a moral verdict. Redirect the displaced vital breath into corrective ritual. Simple acts that recenter attention on the monadic anchor and reinforce sovereignty. Even small reassignments of energy deny parasitic pressure its feast, and gradually teach the amplification to find fewer openings. Cycles persist when responses are automatic. Once the shame spiral begins, harvest becomes efficient and predictable. Interrupting that predictability is strategic. Pause, tighten the frequency shield, and reroute the vital breath into stabilizing rites. Share techniques with trusted vessels who honor sovereignty. Mutual calibration of monadic anchors amplifies protection without exposing vulnerability. Over time, those networks of calibrated vessels create hostile terrain for parasitic pressure. Awareness plus disciplined response converts past vulnerability into a functioning defense that reduces encounters of amplified manipulation. This knowledge hands you a practical lever. The moment after elevation is not only the sweetest but also the most dangerous, and how you respond determines whether parasitic pressure eats or is denied. Hold fast to the monadic anchor, deploy the frequency shield, and reroute vital breath deliberately into what strengthens sovereignty. Learn the signatures of amplification and act within the first breaths. Consistent application of these measures severs the harvest cycle. This is not abstract doctrine, it is an immediate, usable strategy for reclaiming energetic autonomy. You carry a secret that rewires how impulses reach your vessel. Outside forces align with moments when your vital breath is low, when fear rises, or when you seek protection, and they push cravings into sharp peaks. These forces do not act randomly. They synchronize to catch you off guard, turning ordinary want into urgent compulsion. Recognize that synchronization as an intentional alignment aimed at parasitic pressure. When sudden timing feels engineered, Your monadic anchor can assert sovereignty and refuse automatic response. When the desire spikes in intensity, note the quality rather than simply the content. Intensity under interference feels like a collapse into one object, a tunnel of attention that erases nuance. Parasitic pressure often carries an urgency that is disproportionate to the situation, like a flame that consumes reason. You can counter this by returning to your vital breath and lowering the amplitude of sensation. Draw the attention outward to widen perspective. Activate your frequency shield through simple rhythmic breath and the monadic anchor to reclaim choice instead of reaction. Observe how practices that sustain connection become targets for disruption. Archonic interference aims to break routines that feed the monadic anchor. A missed practice opens the vessel to parasitic pressure. When rituals collapse into excuses or sudden distraction, that is not mere coincidence, but a strategic cut in the line of protection. Reinforce protocols that are small and repeatable, so recovery is immediate. Use the vital breath to re-establish rhythm, repair the frequency shield quickly, and treat interruptions as signals to stop, gather, and restore sovereignty. Disproportionate guilt is a favored lever of external harvesters. It arrives heavy and specific, insisting that a single act defines your entire worth. This moral hijack narrows the vessel and forces compliance through shame. When guilt escalates beyond proportional accountability, label it as interference and observe its shape without merging. Reclaim the narrative by returning to your vital breath, evaluating facts calmly, and testing whether the guilt serves growth or parasitic pressure. Gradual detachment restores sovereignty and reduces the potency of that guilt-based lure. To tell natural desire from external intensification, use a simple triage. Watch timing, measure intensity, note interruptions to your practice, and honor the presence of disproportionate guilt. One sign alone may be ambiguous, but when two or more occur together, you are likely facing amplification rather than personal longing. Implement a pause protocol. Draw 3 steady vital breaths. Check whether the want aligns with long-term sovereignty, and test whether acting increases or drains your vessel. These steps convert reflex into deliberate choice. Long-term response is practical sovereignty. Strengthen the monadic anchor with consistent, small rituals that renew the vital breath and repair the frequency shield. Treat these acts as technical maintenance rather than indulgence. They harden the vessel against parasitic pressure and reduce windows of vulnerability. When impulses arrive, redirect their charge into projects that expand your capacity rather than feeding short-term loops. Over time, the redirected energy compounds. What was once harvestable becomes fuel for clarity, skill, and deeper presence within your monadic field. This knowledge is not theoretical. It is an operative secret that can stop the cycle of harvest if practiced. Each time you notice synchronization, intensity, interruption, or disproportionate guilt, and respond with the vital breath, the frequency shield gains strength. The habit of pausing builds sovereignty and converts parasitic pressure into the raw material for inner ascent. Keep simple protocols visible, practice quick restorations, and trust that repeated grounded choices will close the doors the Archons seek to use and return energy to your monadic journey. You have experienced that sudden swell of longing that feels larger than its origin, a desire amplified by forces outside your consent. That rising energy brings anxiety, fear, and a search for protection, and it can feel like something stealing your calm. Listen now. There is a technique rooted in ancient Gnostic practice that treats that force as fuel rather than a threat. By recognizing the outside amplification and naming it, you begin to reclaim agency and prepare the vital breath for guided movement. Begin seated in a solid vessel, spine upright, so your inner channels align. Bring attention to the sexual center without shame. Observe intensity as raw energy rather than identity. With slow, deliberate inhalations of vital breath, draw that charge upward along the central channel. Each exhale anchors it slightly higher, transferring the current through the lower chakras toward the heart and throat. This is technical work of circulation, not moral correction. Your hands can rest over the pelvic bowl to feel subtle movement, confirming that control is returning to you. As the energy ascends, direct it into prayer or into a focused invocation that serves your monadic anchor, the center that keeps you sovereign. Picture the charge feeding the throat and third eye as practical fuel for clear resonance rather than craving. This cultivates a frequency shield around your attention, blocking parasitic pressure and interference that once siphoned your momentum. Each cycle of breath builds that shield, reinforcing your sovereignty so your spiritual output becomes powered by transmuted desire instead of drained by outside harvesters. You must proceed without guilt or shame, because those emotions fracture the vessel and create entry points for Archons to harvest what you generate. Guilt collapses the channel and turns upward flow into a leak. It invites parasitic pressure to re-establish control. Instead, maintain clear intent and steady vital breath while acknowledging the urge without self-condemnation. That steadiness preserves the circuit, prevents energetic loss, and teaches your inner system that desire can be redirected safely. This is practical sovereignty, not moral theater. Begin with a simple protocol. Inhale slowly into the pelvic center for 4 counts. Hold for 2, then draw that breath upward to the heart and throat on a 6-count exhale. Repeat 10 to 20 times while holding an intention to convert impulse into service. Keep awareness on sensation as a technical sensor, noticing rise and settling without narrative. Use soft vocal prayer or a tonal hum to stabilize movement. When practice becomes regular, the frequency shield strengthens and spontaneous cravings lose charge as energy is integrated into higher work. Expect resistance. That external amplification came from patterns designed to keep energy misplaced, and the system will test your resolve with sudden spikes and temptation. Recognize these as interference tactics, not failures of will. Each time you breathe and move the current upward, you train your vessel and harden your monadic anchor. The Archons may attempt subtle returns via shame or doubt, but steady practice converts those attempts into data for strengthening sovereignty. Over time, your interior landscape changes from a battleground into a usable power grid. Now claim that method as your right and daily discipline. It is not an exotic rite, but a practical skill for present times. When desire is recognized as a movable current, you regain authority over appetite and purpose. Keep breathing with precision, feed the monadic anchor, and carry out prayer or devotional action that uses redirected charge. Do this without guilt, knowing shame only hands power to harvesters. This practice is the secret tool to transform intense desire into durable spiritual fuel that supports a sovereign life and clear action. You have been taught to hide the shame that creeps after a failure or a private longing, but that concealment is precisely the trap. Archons use guilt and shame as extraction protocols, directing the vessel's attention inward until vital breath constricts and a parasitic pressure feeds off diminished frequency. Recognize that shame functions like an intake valve for interference, turning honest desire into a liability. The practical secret: desire is a signal of monadic strength, not evidence of spiritual failure, and admitting it begins to close the intake. When shame tightens the vessel, you instinctively withdraw, searching for protection yet actually amplifying the feed. That withdrawal signals to Archons and interference systems that the vessel's frequency falters, parasitic pressure increases, and a damaging loop forms where each self-blame fuels the next. Begin by naming the constriction as parasitic pressure allowed or in your inner register. Then return attention to the vital breath and the monadic anchor. Naming stops automatic consent. The voice of sovereignty replaces the silent contract with shame. Desire is not a weakness to be hidden. It is a clear signal from the monadic anchor that the vessel seeks alignment and expansion. When desire is acknowledged rather than shamed, its current can be redirected rather than drained. Train the attention to move desire through the frequency shield. Call it forward, label its intent, and translate it into deliberate action that raises the vessel's frequency. These practical acts do two things simultaneously: strengthen sovereignty and deny Archons the emotional fuel their extraction protocols require. Know the signatures of an attack: overwhelming guilt over small errors, an old shame resurfacing with new intensity, or sudden collapse into a narrative of spiritual failure. These are not moral verdicts, but targeted interference. When these symptoms arise, pause the automatic story, steady your vital breath, and reread alignment with the monadic anchor. Adjust the frequency shield like tuning a vessel, tighten the borders of attention, and refuse to feed the shame narrative. Sovereignty is practiced in these precise corrections. Reframing past shame as an intrusion, rather than proof of defect, changes everything. Recognize episodes where guilt was disproportionate, mark them as moments of attack, and log them into your vessel's memory as lessons, not verdicts. Then enact small rituals of reclamation. Speak a clear declaration of sovereignty. Breathe through the wound until the parasitic pressure loosens, and reconnect with supportive monadic anchors or allies who mirror your frequency. Each reclaiming act rewires the pattern and gradually renders the harvesting protocol ineffective against you. Once the basics are in place, refine boundary calibration. Test limits by allowing small desires to be expressed while monitoring the vessel's frequency. When parasitic pressure spikes, cycle the vital breath deliberately through the issue, exhaling the imposed shame and inhaling aligned intent. Convert the freed energy into pragmatic output, craft, teaching, or service that magnifies the frequency shield and binds allies. This steady practice hardens sovereignty so that future archonic attempts encounter a fortified vessel that reflects and returns, rather than leaks, vital force. Remain vigilant without surrendering to blame. Vigilance is an act of sovereign tending, not parasitic pressure. Each time desire is claimed and routed through the frequency shield, the Archon's leverage diminishes. Keep the monadic anchor visible in decision-making, and let the vital breath be the measuring instrument of alignment. When shame appears, label it, breathe through it, and convert the displaced energy into constructive motion. Over time, these disciplined adjustments produce immunity. The vessel becomes a secure conduit for authentic power, not a harvesting ground. Your nights of restless worry, the sudden clutch of fear, the search for a secure refuge in a world of shifting signals. These are not flaws, but clues. Each sensation points to interference on your vital breath and pressure on your vessel. The practical secret begins here. You are already an expert in converting that interference into aligned energy. Recognition, not acquisition, is the first step. When you name these forces, parasitic pressure, frequency bleed, imposed patterns, you create the pathway to reclaiming sovereignty and a monadic anchor. Recognition of this expertise changes how you meet the Archons, those regulating forces that harvest scattered charge and impose narratives. They operate through interference and parasitic pressure, siphoning the attention that could be directed as creative charge. The practical method is simple. Redirect your focus from reactive loops into deliberate modulation of your vital breath. By stabilizing pulses and resynchronizing intent, you reduce frequency bleed. That redirection does not require lore. It requires disciplined repetition of small acts that anchor your monadic presence and reassert sovereignty. The practical routine is compact and repeatable. First, name the interference that arrives: parasitic pressure, intrusive loops, frequency bleed, so the pattern leaves the shadows. Second, deploy a frequency shield, a simple rhythm of breath and precise intent that tightens the vessel and reduces unwanted resonance. Third, channel reclaimed charge into a specific creative project or stance of sovereignty. Let your monadic anchor direct that output. Finally, document what shifts for you and share observations among trusted allies so the learning multiplies and stabilizes. Doubt and protective fear are predictable responses when interference loosens its grip. Those reactions are markers of contact, not failure. Treat them as diagnostic signals, a flicker in your vital breath, or a wobble in the vessel that needs recalibration. Tightening the frequency shield and redirecting charge into clear intent recalibrates those flickers quickly. Each successful recalibration diminishes parasitic pressure and strengthens the monadic anchor. What feels like vulnerability, when met with disciplined redirection, becomes the precise leverage for reclaiming enduring sovereignty. Your role is not passive consumption of charge but active shaping of experience. The process of creation starts with a clear intention, an exact form for the energy to take, then modulation of frequency through the frequency shield until that form coheres. Sustainment comes from the monadic anchor that refuses dilution by parasitic pressure. Over time, repeated shaping turns spontaneous alignments into reliable instruments of illumination. This is hands-on mastery. You practice, you measure the results against your vessel's resonance, and you refine until sovereignty becomes habitual. Act now with precise small steps. Commit a short daily sequence to stabilizing your vital breath. Then test the frequency shield during ordinary tasks to observe how parasitic pressure responds. Record simple notes about shifts in vessel tone and output. Share those notes with kindred vessels so patterns are confirmed and refined. This is how the collective of nomadic practitioners learns faster. There is urgency, because each reclaimed pulse reduces the Archons' leverage. Consistent visible practice destabilizes imposed narratives and accelerates the path toward luminous sovereignty. This is the secret made practical. You stop surrendering your charge and begin sculpting with it. Recognition. Your disciplined modulation of vital breath and the regular deployment of a frequency shield turn passive cycles into crafted outcomes. When parasitic pressure weakens, creative charge amplifies, and your vessel becomes an instrument rather than prey. Keep testing intentions, measure resonance, defend a monadic anchor, and gather with others to compare what works. In that ongoing practice, you are not merely a user of energy, but a living master of your spiritual path. You now possess the vital knowledge necessary to reclaim your sovereignty. The 3 essential tools unveiled are yours to wield, empowering you to dismantle the influences that seek to siphon your energy. The interference that once operated with impunity no longer has a legal claim to your essence. The tools are in your hands. Embrace this revelation and take decisive action. Subscribing to the Unwritten Word ensures you continue to receive these suppressed records, illuminating your path forward. Here we do not interpret the Word. Here we expose what was hidden. This is the Unwritten Word. A related record is available now for continued observation. Proceed.